All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Tuesday, April 8th. We have a 10-game NBA slate to dive into in today's video. Like we always do, I'm going to dive into each and every one of these games. I'm going to give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. We'll talk about any other plays like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, guys, keep an eye down on the pinned comment of this video. That'll take you to all of my final plays, so what I'm actually rolling with myself. If that does interest you, it's absolutely free down in the pinned comment. All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. I tell you guys I'm a dummy all the time. They don't suck. They've just been sucking. Get them down to -3, 4 more juice than Jose Canseco in his prime. Tell me you're new without telling me you're new. So don't go jumping down my throat in the comments, right? If you want to fade me, or if you do want to ride me, this still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, right? And remember, more chins, more wins. Yesterday was a very small slate, so we had what I would consider a fairly small night in terms of what we threw out there. We had one play, Malik Beasley over 14.5 points. Finished at 14, so on the hook. And the biggest concern here is that I really liked it, and we put a full unit on it. So that is tough. That's why we are owed the womp womp there. Again, it's just one unit, just one play, but I almost would have rathered him have like 6 points rather than 14, you know what I mean? So, unfortunately, that does not come through for us. And we did have a ride of the day, but Bam Adebayo ended up not playing. So, we do have the ride of the day open for today, guys. If you guys don't know what the ride of the day is, it's simple. It's a way to get shouted out in tomorrow's video. All you have to do is use that hashtag ride of the day down in the comments. I jump on board with one person's play each and every day. Give you a shout out in the next video, win or loss. If you do win, we continue to ride with your plays. If you lose, you still get the shout out, but we drop the womp womp on you. You got to talk about it in the next video, that type of thing. Also post it over on my Twitter/X if you are interested in what is the ride of the day each and every day. Check that out, but it's right with the final plays in the pinned comment as well. So make sure to go ahead and check that out as well. But let's go ahead and dive into this slate. A lot bigger than yesterday. Yesterday was a 2-game slate. We have a 10-game slate today, but we're still in the wonky period of the NBA, right? The finale to the regular season and that type of thing. So we're still going to be safe. We're still going to be conservative. Even though we have 10 games, I wouldn't expect a million plays on the board today. If you want a million plays, check out the baseball plays because we have been firing from the hip over in that sport. But let's go ahead and dive into this one. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Let's get rocking. We got Orlando taking on Atlanta here. Orlando, 4.5-point favorites. They're 7-3 in their last 10 games, and they're covering as well. Whereas Atlanta, they're covering, right? 6-3-1 in their last 10, but haven't been playing as good of basketball, I guess I would say. But Atlanta has dominated this matchup in terms of the win-loss in the last couple years. They're 7-3 in their last 10 against Orlando. Injury-wise, nothing major to note on Orlando's side of things. Trae Young listed as questionable. Capella, Larry Nance, and Toppin all listed as out. I would say this is a spot in which I think Orlando's defense will be the thing that ultimately pulls them through in this one. Atlanta has definitely started to shoot a lot more threes to close out the year. They're still shooting in the paint, but both from the perimeter as well as the paint, this Orlando defense is pretty damn sound, right? So I don't mind the spot for them. If this line was any bigger, say we're getting to like 5.5, 6, I honestly start to, okay, maybe we lean a little bit more towards Atlanta, but for Orlando to come out there and just have to win by 5 points, I don't necessarily mind it. Last time they played, which is the most recent game that they've had, was back on February 20th, and Orlando won the game by 6 points, and obviously a close game, but still 6 points, right? And they didn't close out the game as well as we would have liked. They lost the fourth quarter, so I do think that there's a lot of, ways to get to Orlando here when you prioritize the defense. So with that being said, I also do consider maybe a little look at the under. I think this one could be like a 220 type of a finish, something like that. I mean, last time they played, it finished at 220, what was it, 222? So right around that same spot. We've seen a lot of unders recently. I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 unders in a row between these two squads. So yeah, kind of like that. And then no major player props as of right now. It's probably Orlando and or the under, and then nothing else that I'm really all that interested in. Charlotte taking on Memphis. In terms of what we have from a standings perspective, this game does matter to Memphis. Clippers are in the 5 seed, Warriors are in the 6th seed, Timberwolves in the 7th seed, Grizzlies in the 8th seed right now. All of those teams have the exact same record, and they're only a half game back of the 4 seed of the Nuggets. So you better believe that this Memphis team cares about this and is going hard, whereas Charlotte, not exactly so much. So this is probably a spot in which I would say Memphis gets out early. Do I love them having to win by 15 points just to cover this number? No, that seems a little bit too crazy. But in the first half, I don't mind the idea of them, having to win by 6.5 or by 7, kind of 6.5. So maybe that's a potential look for Memphis here. They've definitely been playing hard, towards the end here of this season. They haven't necessarily been getting the luckiest of breaks, but they've gotten 2 wins in a row now and 2 fairly important wins, whereas Charlotte's one of those teams that the towel was waving and then it goes and they throw it right in, right? So I think it's the Memphis spot or nothing here. I also don't mind the idea of a Charlotte team total under. Now, I would almost lean towards the full game under because Charlotte plays so damn slow. Memphis is obviously a team that likes to run, but I worry that, if Memphis tries to run, there's nothing Charlotte's going to do to really stop them. But even if this game gets up to a fast pace and whatnot, I don't really see how Charlotte can convert some of these, possessions all that successfully. So, yeah, I like Memphis maybe in the first half, but I would also strongly consider a Charlotte team total under 110.5 here. Last time they played Memphis, they scored 120. Okay, that's fair. But on the season here, they've hit the under in 72% of games. So, sure, I worry a little bit about Memphis, going out there and running. But if we do look at Memphis, kind of, their defense recently, it hasn't been all that terrible. Last 2 games, Miami and Detroit, they're not the fastest of teams. Detroit can run it up, but 103 against, 102 against. It's the good teams like the Boston Celtics, the Lakers when the Lakers are at home, OKC, Golden State. These are the teams that are scoring on them. Another bad team they played, Utah, who, by the way, likes to play fast, only 103 against. So I do think that this could be a decent spot here to consider the Charlotte team total under 110.5. Now, the only place I'm seeing that is MGM for minus 165 right now. That's as far as I would go, guys. It's probably a half unit look, if anything. But again, minus 165 is as far as I'd go. At that point, you might as well start looking at minus 109.5, which, under 109.5, which is still something we might get to and consider just in general. But yeah, 110.5 is probably our consideration here in this one. But again, Memphis, in terms of a first half spread, also something that I would put the idea around because I do think that they'll come out a little fired up. I also don't mind Ja Morant here over in his PRA. His number's super, super high, but this should be a really good matchup for him, and he has been crushing it. 9 straight games he's gone over his 35.5 points, rebounds, and assists. Doesn't matter if they're playing bad teams, good teams. The dude is balling right now and playing hard. If you don't like that, the thing I would pivot to is probably his points, because for over 25.5, you're getting plus money, and you can still get plenty of 24.5s out there right now, and he has been crushing it. Last 10 games averaging over 30. So Ja Morant, I think, is looking to roll right into, and he's definitely the guy that's grinding for this squad. I think he's looking to roll right into strong, end of the season, into the playoffs. Indiana taking on Washington. If we flip this one over to the standings, Indiana just, they're kind of solidified where they are. 3 games back of the Knicks. They're in the 4 seed right now. 3 games back of 3. 3 games up on 5. So I don't really think that they're going to come in being like, oh, we got to win. Kind of thought that to some degree against, Denver, and what'd they do? They ended up making me look like an idiot, and they beat Denver, right? So I do kind of have my concerns of this, but what I kind of maintain, and I'm not saying I'm going to actually roll with Washington myself, but the fact that Indiana has not been covering, they're 8-2 in their last 10, very good. This is not a sarcastic clap. Indiana's closing out this year really well, solidifying themselves as the 4 seed, right? Top half in the Eastern Conference. But they're just 4-6 against the number, and before that they were 2-8. They've covered 2 straight games, one being a massive number just like this against Utah, and then they were dogs against Denver and won outright. So yeah, I'm a little conflicted there, but having to win by 20 at this point in the season, that's crazy to me. Give me Washington plus the points. I'll tell you the truth, I don't think we get there ourselves. I just can't see that happening. In terms of the total, I think we have to lean towards an over, or at least a team total over for Indiana. They have been racing. They're doing like Pacer-esque things, which they weren't all that consistent to this season, but man, oh man, are they having some high-scoring games. And right now you can look at them over 126.5, and that's probably how I would end up taken a peek at it. That's a super high number, so I get it if people are like, I don't know about that. But last time they played against Washington, which was fairly recently, they scored 162. Time before that, they scored 134. So his team can definitely score against Washington. So give me Indiana as well as the over. Definitely some player prop potential in this spot, I will say, just given the fact that there's a lot of points. The problem is I'm struggling to find exactly what matchups I'm liking, if any. So keep an eye on the final plays. If we add anything in this one, I'll be sure to give a little blurb and reasoning and rationale as to why I like it in the pinned comment. Also mentioned, only will help Indiana's offense. We might see Pascal Siakam in the lineup today. He's questionable. But yeah, give me Indiana as well as the over, and then potentially some player prop ads, which I'll explain with the final plays if we do add anything as to why I added them. All right, real quick, guys, let's talk about Taco Tuesday and Prize Picks. Right now on Prize Picks, we'll get to Taco Tuesday in a second. Prize Picks is giving you a $5. You place a $5 lineup, and you get $50. 5-0. Boom. Right there, right? You 10x that $5 just by placing a $5 entry as a new customer. But it's also Taco Tuesday, which is awesome because now you can place a $5 lineup based on a discounted square, meaning you might hit and might have a better chance of hitting that $5 lineup you place, getting that payout, and getting the $50, building yourselves a nice little bankroll there in Prize Picks. So go ahead and check it out, guys. That link will be down in the description as well as the pinned comment. Or if you just want to sign up on your computer, your laptop, your tablet, your phone, use code GUYBOSTON. It'll get you all of the same stuff. They should have multiple discounted squares throughout the day because it is Taco Tuesday. But man, this play 5, get 50 is absolutely awesome. It's just a lump 50 right into there, and you can use that now to roll with your plays on Prize Picks. So go ahead and check it out, guys. That link will be down below in the description as well as the pinned comment. Let's jump back into these NBA games. All right, Cleveland taking on Chicago. Chicago probably has a little bit more to play for here if you just look at the standings. They probably don't want to bump to the 10 seed. They're only a half game up on that right now. They're a game behind the Hawks, so sure, there's some way that we could make a case for Chicago caring about it. And man, oh man, if you looked at their record, they're 7-2 in their last 9. They're they are 6-3 in their last 9 against the number. That said, Cleveland's coming off of a loss, and I think Cleveland coming off of a loss is a decent spot to take a peek at them. I don't mind an over in this game, though. Now, Vucevic is questionable. Josh Giddey's questionable. No Lonzo Ball, no Kevin Huerter, no Kobe White. Trey Jones is also out. So that's kind of why, Chicago's going to care, but it's their B team, right? So I still expect the pace to be up there, maybe some threes to fall, but I don't necessarily love the idea of backing Chicago. If you are still thinking about backing Chicago, you can use the fact that Donovan Mitchell's also listed as out for this game. So, this Cleveland team's a hell of a lot different with them, but at the same time, if I'm reading these starting lineups off, Garland, Strus, Okoro, Mobley, Jared Allen versus questionable Giddey, Dalen Terry, Williams, Buzelis, and questionable Vucevic, I think there's still a massive, massive edge on the Cleveland side of things, and they have the better bench. Now, if Giddey and Vucevic are out, some of those bench guys start, and they just have more of an advantage, right? So I think Chicago's going to care about this game, but I don't think the care is going to overwhelm Cleveland's skill. So I think Cleveland potentially getting thrown into some sort of a slimy parlay or something like that could definitely be of consideration for me today. Maybe bumping them down to 2.5, 1.5, something like that, depending on how we can work it in. But like I said, I don't mind an over. Now, if you don't really like the idea of Giddey being questionable, Vucevic being questionable, I do get that. You could probably just pivot towards a Cleveland team total over. At that point, you are looking at a very, very high number. So I shouldn't confuse guys by saying I like an over. Realistically, what my verbiage should be is I'm not really considering an under. So by default, I like the over, right? Because me saying I like the over might kind of give a thought that it's something that I'm really, really considering today. No, if I were to consider something strongly on the total, it would be me diving even more and more into trying to figure out how this over could work. So maybe that's a better way of putting it. But yeah, Cleveland minus 12.5, even without the parlay, I think they're much better than this Chicago team. Last time they played was about a month ago, and they won by 22. The time before that, which was also this season, they won by, I think it was like 18. They played earlier in the year, and they won, I think, by 6. But ultimately, the other two games a little bit more telling, in my opinion. Those were the ones. One of those was in Chicago, and one was in Cleveland. So they're trying to close out this year strong. They are, and they're coming off of a loss. Could be a decent spot for them. Evan Mobley over rebounds plus assists and or just points, rebounds, and assists could be something that I consider here as well. I do like the assists thought because if they just try and throw a bunch at him down low or even from the perimeter, maybe he gets a couple open looks because his defense or other guys around him on the team get open looks because his defense is so bad. But like at the same time, Evan Mobley should be able to two dribble, head down, get to the rim, right? So to me, yeah, Mobley would be kind of the guy today. In terms of Chicago, they're just allowing the over the last 7 games, 5th most assists to the power forward position, 10th most rebounds. So yeah, Vucevic plays and it's a Bazelis on Mobley. Love the idea of him also getting some rebounds over him. So I would say Mobley over rebounds plus assists, but also it's hard for me to just totally deny the idea of a points plus assists too. You know what I mean? Points plus rebounds plus assists. All right, Knicks taking on the Celtics. Should be a good game if, and it's a damn big if, we see guys play. Jalen Brunson's questionable, as is Deuce McBride, which is, they're both probable, so they're probably playing. On the other side of things, Drew Holiday and Derek White, probable. Okay, the backcourt looks okay. Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis, and Jason Tatum, as well as Al Horford. Actually, Al Horford's out. So Jalen, Jason, and Kristaps all listed as questionable. If they don't get the go, which that line is kind of screaming some of these guys are going to miss. You know what I mean? If they don't play, then I'm kind of worried about where I come out on this one. I almost think that the Knicks at home in a game in which they're probably trying to salvage some good vibes heading into the playoffs, whereas the Celtics are kind of already in playoff mode. You know what I mean? Celtics have been winning plenty of games, don't get me wrong, but the Knicks, they finally just started to turn it to a different level. They're 7-3 in their last 10, 4-1 in their last 5, 4-1 against the number as well. They beat some mediocre teams. The one good team they played, they got smoked by Cleveland. So sure, you could throw that in there. But ultimately, I do think that the New York Knicks at home here probably care about this game a little bit more than the Celtics do. They're 8 games separating them from the 2 seed and 3 seed, so that's not really a factor, right? The Celtics, I would, again, assume the reason these guys are all questionable, like they're not all hurt at the same time. They're already in playoff mode, waiting to get there because they're not moving to the 1 seed and they're not dropping. I think that this is, again, not to sound like a broken record, say the same thing over and over again, but this is maybe a Knicks spot. Am I going to put my hard-earned bread against my favorite sports team? No, okay? I am biased to some degree. I can break the game down unbiased, but in terms of me making it a final play, I'm sorry, I'm still a sports fan. I'm not a robot. I don't know how some people do it. You know what I mean? Watch your favorite team and bet against them. I'm too much of a human for that. What I will say is I think the Celtics defense can show up regardless of how this game goes in a sense. So I don't mind the idea of a slight lean towards an under. The Knicks already not playing all that fast, right? Their last few games, with the exception of the game against Atlanta, but 112, 121, that's the one I want to exclude, 105, 110, 116, 113. The Celtics, they've been scoring decently, but again, some of their guys might be missing today. Their defense, with the exclusion of one game against Miami, 90, these are points against, 90, 103. Now you get the Miami game, which was 124, 103, 111, 102. Head-to-head here, last time they played, 118 to 105. The time before that, which was the same month in February, 131 to 104. The time before that, which was also the season, 132 to 109. The Celtics have dominated the Knicks, but what I want to focus on is the 105, 104, and 109. The Knicks haven't had the most offensive success against the Celtics team. And here I am admitting that I do think the Celtics offense may take a step back today, just due to maybe 2 of these guys being out of the lineup. So I expect somewhat of a low-scoring game. Give me the under 222.5. You could still snag that over on ESPN. Player prop-wise, I would really like to see the injury report before, I guess, wanting to dive into anything here. But I guess if I had to, OG Anunoby, I think, still is just feeling himself and looking good. So he's been trending fairly well. And I do think that, if Kristaps doesn't play or something like that, OG could have some success down low. Brooklyn taking on the Pelicans, man, oh man, it's like we get to this wonky point of the NBA season, and then it's like we still got to talk about some of these games, the games that just don't matter. Hey, it's what we signed up for, right? I wouldn't trade it for anything, but we got the 12th seed in the Eastern Conference hosting the 14th seed in the Western Conference here in a battle that we should expect to be historic. realistically, this is a Pelican spot for me. They're super injured, I get it, but Brooklyn, no Cam Johnson, no Keldon Johnson, no D'Angelo Russell, no Sharp. Nick Claxton is back. Williams is back, sure, but I think that this Brooklyn team obviously has also thrown in the towel. It's like a who's thrown in the towel more, and when I use this thought process, some of you in the comments agree, some of you disagree. I rarely put my money on it, so take this all with a grain of salt. This Brooklyn team, a lot of these guys that are playing have already had that sort of spark of, all right, I'm going to try and prove myself and all that. Whereas some of the guys that are sliding into this Pelicans lineup, it's like, yeah, I mean, sure, if Alvarado and Kelly doesn't play, this means even more, but a lot more of like, all right, I got to show myself and prove myself because I'm not going to get time next year or anything like that. So, yeah, it works both ways. Brooklyn, you can make the same argument, but guys, this is not a game at this point of the year that I'm willing to wager on. Total wise, I guess over if I had a you know what to my head and had to roll with it, just because I think both teams' defenses aren't that great. I think I'm starting to learn and see that Brooklyn's defense is like Olay-ish defense. They're playing really slow, which obviously is kind of leading to some of these unders hitting, but realistically, 120 to Toronto, that's what they played, right? In their last game, this defense isn't anything. 112 to Washington, the Clippers dropped 130 on them. If a team wants to score on them, they will, and you know what? New Orleans, 108 and 107 in the last 2 games against 2 decent defenses. Whatever. Give me the over. All right, here is a good one. Milwaukee taking on Minnesota. Definitely some playoff implications here. We already talked about the Grizzlies. Minnesota's in that exact same situation. You have the Nuggets at Nuggets separating themselves by a half game all the way down to the 8 seed. Timberwolves 7 seed right now, but they are tied with the 5th seed. So things are crazy in the West. I'm excited to see how this plays out. In terms of injuries, Giannis is questionable. Still no Damian Lillard. I would say that Minnesota's probably the spot here, but I mean, if you guys have been watching, you know that I've been getting kind of screwed by the thought process of, oh, this game should matter more for this squad and that type of thing, right? Crazy here right now. So we've been kind of getting screwed by rolling with the team that should care about it more, which is interesting, but Minnesota has won 5 straight games. They've looked pretty damn good. They beat Denver. They beat Detroit. Like, they're beating some decent teams here as well. Milwaukee 4 straight, but I don't want to give too much credit to Phoenix, Philadelphia, Miami, and New Orleans. You know what I mean? And this season, they played once, very, very close game, and it was in Minnesota. Milwaukee ended up taking that one. So maybe Minnesota wants to battle back here and take this. So I like Minnesota minus the points in this spot. You can get the minus 4.5 right now. That's definitely got a chance of being a final play of mine. I would say maybe money line with the Cavs or something like that in one of those, slimy parlays, but as of right now, to me, I think it's probably just a look at Minnesota overall. I think that this is a game that they really do want to win, and they're showing that when they're caring about it, man, are they taking it to and getting some dubs. So give me Minnesota. The total is kind of questionable here. I have this pegged at like 230, which is way off, obviously. If we look at the defenses and how these two squads kind of match up, in fact, we can jump into the dashboard and you can see this. This might be a better view. If you guys want access to this dashboard, it's over on GuyBostonSports.com, which is the link to the plays in the pinned comment. Right in the top right corner, you'll see a members tab, NBA dashboard, MLB dashboard. You can sign up there, very, very cheap if you guys do want this daily. The MLB dashboard's great. So is this, obviously, though. But we're getting late in the year. This is going to be huge in the playoffs, but for the next week, maybe not so much. But what I was trying to get to here is Milwaukee, realistically only scoring from the mid-range. Minnesota not all that great at it, but if Milwaukee tries to score inside, which I think they will, we've seen some decent defense from Minnesota as of late. Last 10 games, 63.7% in the restricted area to their opponents, 43 in the paint there. If they want to score from 3, sure, their numbers don't look all that great last 10, but season long, top 3 team at defending the perimeter. And what I also want to note here is, okay, what position does Giannis Antetokounmpo play? I nailed that pronunciation. Power forward. Look at the team. Look at the position that Minnesota covers the best. Boom, right there. Now, isolation. If Damian Lillard was in the game or something like that, I'd worry because that's how you can get this Minnesota team. See our isolation numbers over here? Defensively, that's how you can get them. Pick and roll, they might still be able to get them, but Giannis is not usually the pick and roll ball handler, and they only run that at the 20th highest rate of frequency. So what Minnesota struggles in defensively, I'm not really seeing Milwaukee do altogether. You know what I mean? So I think this is a spot for Minnesota. Also note that they've played the hardest schedule right here, top right, hardest schedule so far this season. So yeah, Minnesota is going to be my look in this one. And like I said, in terms of a total, I think Minnesota's defense could kind of doormat this Milwaukee team. So I kind of like the idea of maybe an under or a Minnesota team total over. Like I said, I have this at 230, so it's a little bit weird, but I think the points come from Minnesota in this one, so I think that might be a look as well. Now, if we wanted to take a peek at a player prop in this one, I believe we did have one. Jaden McDaniels, kind of want to go back to him in terms of him being involved, but Nickeil Alexander-Walker has been playing really, really well for this Minnesota team, and he's still got some low numbers. So if I wanted to take a peek at someone, maybe it's taking a peek at him. In terms of him against this squad, his points plus assists has looked very good. He's hit that in 9 of his last 10, and you look at him against this Milwaukee team, he's averaging 11.7, his line at 10.5, and he's hit it in two of his last 3 against them. The one that he didn't, he finished at 10, so he was right there. So, yeah, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, could be a player prop look today. All right, OKC taking on the Lakers. I feel like this is more of like a feel spot coming from me. But OKC getting kind of embarrassed by the Lakers in their last outing. An OKC team that was playing really well and now has lost 2 straight games. I have a feeling it's either going to go one of 2 ways. They are totally like just in a rut right now, and that's a terrible time for them to go in a rut, but it wouldn't be the first time we've seen the Thunder look really good and then kind of at the end of the year peel off a little bit, right? Or they're going to be like, screw this, and battle back and absolutely pummel the Lakers here, doing that to us on our home floor and all that type of jazz. So, yeah, throw in the fact that Luka, Reeves, LeBron, also Dorian Finney-Smith, Gabe Vincent, and who else were we missing? Bronny James, listed as questionable. No Rui Hachimura and Max Kleber still out. Yeah, this is probably a spot in which I'd consider taking a peek at the Thunder. Maybe Cleveland minus something, and Thunder minus something in some sort of a slimy parlay would be what we end up rolling with. In terms of a total, and again, that's kind of like a field play, but in terms of a total, I think the Thunder get out and get going in this one. This Lakers defense, especially if those guys don't play, I don't know how they're going to be able to keep up with them. OKC, I think, is going to run. So I'm going to lean over to 26 in this one. Player props. So in terms of a player prop, this one's a little, I guess, worrisome in general because I don't think we're going to get the most amount of opportunities for it, but I do think that Aaron Wiggins over 2.5 rebounds right now could be okay. He's been averaging double-digit rebound chances in some games. In that last game against the Lakers, he had 5 rebounds on 10 rebound chances. 2.5 right now. He's been crushing it. He's hit in 2 straight against the Lakers, 7 and 5. Again, it's kind of a weird one. I hope we get the minutes. He's playing about 20 minutes per game, that type of thing, but it's the player prop that jumped up. So am I hesitant to start rolling the dice like this late in the season? Yes, but it's also a play that has been hitting and has been trending. Phoenix taking on Golden State. Golden State right in the mix of that mud that we talked about in terms of the Western Conference, still being, seen to how that shakes out. So did I say Phoenix? Golden State. Maybe I did say Golden State. Golden State is the team that's in the mud. Phoenix, don't have to worry about them right now. Realistically, they've pissed away their chances. They're, I think, either 4.5 or 2.5 or 3.5, something like that, out of the playoffs. So it would take a lot for them to end up, getting in there with 5 games left or something like that. But Golden State, on the other hand, coming off a loss to Houston, I'm sure they didn't like that. That was at home. They lost by 10. They were 5.5-point favorites. In terms of injuries, Nick Richards is questionable. Kevin Durant is out. I would say Golden State from the perimeter should be able to handle this one. We saw them play earlier this year a few times, and Phoenix has won 2 of the last 3. That was a healthy Phoenix team. This Golden State team probably wants a little bit of revenge, but more so cares about their playoff standings, right? So from a Phoenix team that has allowed the 7th most points from 3 per game to their opponents, going up against a Golden State team who 4th most above the break threes in the last 10 games in terms of taking them, and 2nd most corner threes, I expect Golden State to have some success here against them from downtown, leading to potentially a double-digit win. But you know what? Maybe we get even weirder. Minnesota, Golden State, Cleveland parlay. Can I hear anybody out on that one? Maybe just a Minnesota and Golden State parlay because they both need this win, as much as the next guy. That could be a look as well. In terms of what we have from a total, if my biggest thing is that Golden State's going to score, I guess I would, slightly lean towards a Golden State team total over, which let's get an updated line for that because we don't have that up in front of us. A Golden State team total over right now, it's going to be a little bit high, but nothing that's too crazy. Over 116.5. They've hit that in 4 of their last 5. They just didn't have a good game against Houston. And they have, so this is a little worrisome. In 7 straight games, they've gone under against this Phoenix squad. So that could be a little worrisome. On the road this year, they've averaged 115. So maybe that's a play, but again, maybe they just lock up defensively. So I'd probably stick away from that total. Golden State or realistically nothing for me in this one. Clippers taking on San Antonio. Again, not to make too much weight of it, but Clippers right in that same exact mix in this Western Conference debauchery, which is entertaining as all hell. But again, all the same record: Clippers, Warriors, Timberwolves, and Grizzlies with less than a week left in this. Like, that's crazy. Clippers in this one is where I'd go. Kawhi Leonard is questionable. I don't think it's going to matter if he does or doesn't play, because what I really would pivot to more so than anything would be trusting some defense. Now, if Kawhi plays, then I feel like that's just a little bit icing on the cake. I'd prefer that, but we do see a team total right now for San Antonio at 108.5. I think that's a little bit too high for me. Head to head here, they've gone over twice, but the 4 games before that they stayed under. And again, this Clippers defense I do believe in. I guess the one thing, and if you were trying to make an argument against me, you could make the argument that, well, the Clippers haven't exactly played at the slowest offensive pace lately. They are slowing teams down defensively, so some of their pace numbers get a little weird. But ultimately, I could see someone being like, well, the Clippers are scoring a lot of points, right? They played Dallas, they scored 135, they scored 114, 114, 122, 132. Like, they've been scoring a lot, right? But I do think that the San Antonio team, their offense looks like it's just on the verge of being in shambles. 109, 113, 113, 105, 106, 111, 116, 96. Like, I do think at some point this Clippers defense is better than some of the defense that they've played against. So if you can get the Spurs here at under 108.5, I don't necessarily mind that. It's probably a way of backing the Clippers and also mixing in the total there as well. And I believe we had a quick player prop consideration. So keyword being consideration. Let's see what that was. It was Kawhi. Kawhi rebounds plus assists or points, rebounds, and assists. I do like the matchup. If you just like his over in rebounds, I think that could be a look as well. Right now, his over, I think you can get over 4.5 on Fanatics. Only booked there for like minus 160. It's hella juiced, right? Hella juice. I don't say that very often. But everywhere else, it's like minus 200. So if you can race there, then sure. But I also don't mind the over 5.5 for plus money. But guys, that's going to wrap it up for today's show. Again, NBA is a little weird right now. Be safe. Be safe. Be smart. Obviously, do it responsibly and all that stuff. But that's all I have for you guys in this one. If you made it this far in the video, go ahead and comment 31. You made it to the very end, and you are the real ones, the ones that are sticking around at this point in the NBA season, because there's still a lot to learn about these teams. Like, yes, we're not wagering as frequently or like with the quantity that we were in the regular season, but if you guys are watching these games and looking at the analytics and whatnot, that's going to pay some damn dividends when it comes to playoff time, because you'll know how these teams kind of went down at the end of the season and that type of thing. So, and these games went down. So yeah, really, really good kudos to you guys if you are sticking and staying tuned in, as we're doing our best to do as well. But that's my little rant. I'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.